talk, I was actually had this morning prepared a presentation on a number of conference papers that I saw recently at a conference in China, which I found some really positive and interesting things happening in research across Asia and the great big manufacturing continents that we use to make all of our stuff. And Douglas has touched on some of those issues, which is great. And then I read more closely that the original email from Selena saying that you guys are having a challenge this evening about developing something. And it sent me back to this particular presentation that I saw, and this researcher from England has actually been looking at product information that's provided about impact of products. So this is the back of a potato chip packet, and you can see it's got 34.5 grams of potato chips, but its generation and its production, or its whole life cycle, 75 grams of carbon. Now, that kind of makes sense to me because I understand that there's the stuff that's in there, and then there's all the energy that it takes to make it and dispose of it. But to a lot of people, it really is quite meaningless. In fact, I'd say to like most consumers, that kind of information is meaningless. So the challenge, I think, for you guys in your exercise this evening is to how are you going to communicate the benefits that you're offering without greenwashing? And one of the terms that we generated at this conference in discussions on this is gling, which is green bling. And we're finding that there's a lot of communication about products which falls under this category. It's like, hey, we've got this great new product and we can sell on sustainability if we've got this. And so it seems to be, the idea seems to be to add something on rather than to, I suppose, lightweight the product and giving us these extra bits that we have to deal with as consumers. So Walkers own this crisp packet, and they're the first company in the UK to be able to get a carbon reduction label on their packaging under this new standard called the PAS 2050. So do some homework and have a look at that because it's interesting. There's lots of different categories that you can claim this under. And it's a new methodology about trying to get some kind of global communication about impact of products. And in this case, they're using carbon as the footprint of life cycle emissions. And what they did was cut their carbon footprint by 7% in 2 years. But this is limited, and they'll only be able to cut it by so much. But at least they've had a go at it. Their carbon emissions have dropped by 6 grams. Now, Douglas has done these great calculations. That's about 4,800 tonnes of carbon dioxide a year. Now, can anyone here imagine what volume? How big is 4,800 tonnes of carbon? Is it meaningful to you? It's not meaningful to most people. And so I had a look at a few blogs, and there was this great comment by someone about this product. They said it's pretty crazy to realise that you're purchasing and eating half the weight of food versus the carbon dioxide that it takes to produce it. So it shows that people just don't. It's not a terminology. It's not a language that's making it easy for people to understand whether this is a more sustainable product, or it was a sustainable product and it's better, or it wasn't and now it is. How are we measuring this and communicating this? So then I started looking around at all the different bodies worldwide that provide environmental or sustainable, some kind of certification to say that you're a better product or a better service. And there's a lot of them. And a lot of these ones here are members of an organisation. I haven't got that there, but they all subscribe to this one particular methodology of thinking about sustainability, but they've all got their own separate set of rules as well. And so there isn't a whole global way of addressing this question. And I think one of our challenges in quite immediate future is, as a global society, is to work out how we're going to have a standardised process to communicate about what we make and produce and use so that everyone is on the same page. And one of the problems is we are exporting and moving products around, so it may be really good in one context and it could be disastrous in another geographical location. So we need to think about how these impacts are measured across trade routes as well. And that took me on to thinking about how easy it is to greenwash. And I want your challenge tonight is to produce communication about how beneficial whatever it is you are designing is without greenwashing. So in a bit of a rush this afternoon, I borrowed some information from someone else, which is the simsofgreenwashing.org. It's a great little website. to just generate some discussion around the idea of greenwashing. Again, with adding bling or dressing your product up in a green jacket. Okay. So the first one is the sin of the hidden trade-off. It had some nice images as well. So are you going to claim or suggest that your product is green based on a very narrow set of attributes rather than looking at the whole picture? And things like tools like life cycle analysis are meant to prevent you from falling into this kind of sin, I suppose. An example that they've given here is that paper making, or paper isn't necessarily environmentally sustainable when people claim it, where it can be claimed because you can recycle it. Well, but where did it come from? Where did the trees come from? Was it made locally, or was it made somewhere far, far away and shipped to you? So thinking about how was it made, how was it bleached, was it oxygen bleached, was it chlorine bleached? All these sorts of questions need to be addressed. They can't say this is a green product because you can recycle it. The sin of no proof. So are you making claims about what you're doing to make it sound good, but have no proof? And I find I'm often challenging as a consumer, just standing in the supermarket looking at products and they're saying, eco hand wash, or and I think, well, actually, wouldn't a bar of soap be much more ecologically sound than having this liquid soap that that you don't get as many washes out of, that has plastic packaging, that has had to be transported around? So is there proof that this is actually a better product, or is it meaning what you say it does? The sin of vagueness. So are you making claims that could be misinterpreted or interpreted in a positive way for you because you've been vague about your communication about what it does or how it works? So I think the cosmetic industry is really good with the sin of vagueness, and talking about how this product is organic. It might be organic because it's made from plants or something that is organic, but you may have naturally occurring things in it that are not good for you. So meaning that you need to communicate clearly about what you've got in there. So arsenic, uranium, mercury, they're all naturally occurring things. They're all organic, but they're actually not good for you or the environment necessarily. The sin of worshipping fake labels. We're all good at branding or giving endorsement. And in the health industry, the Heart Foundation's cracked down heavily on ticks recently being put on products that look like the Heart Foundation tick, which can be misinterpreted by people as an endorsed good-for-you healthy product. And I'm seeing on every supermarket shelf and in clothing brands and all sorts of genres in product and service offerings, green ticks, but they don't have any endorsement. So what do they mean? Or green packaging, or using brown paper packaging. These are all cues that the product could be more sustainable or a better product in that sense. But is it bringing across a true communication of it's really that? The sin of irrelevance. So are you, say, claiming something isn't in your product when it never was in the first place, and it's just making you sound better because you don't have it? So I can say all of my children are CFC free, but that's fine because children aren't made with CFC. But that's a completely irrelevant claim. There's been some really interesting examples recently in the food industry where people have claimed food to be free of something when it was free of that in the first place anyway. But it's making that food look healthier. So same with environmental considerations. So don't be irrelevant in your claims.